Toot toot.
All right, so I guess this is our weird attempt at mid-card time in 20 years. So
Right?
please excuse us if we're rusty.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been able to record together.
It has.
I know. You've you know I don't think you've recorded that much by yourself. I know you did an unboxing with Allison a while back, the future world
You know,
champ.
I did another one, and I don't think I ever uploaded it either. It's just
I
been
have a
crazy.
I have an unboxing box underneath my laptop right now to get it a little bit more centered, so it's not like shooting the bottom of my hair and my pajama non-wrestling shirt.
How dare you
I
not
know.
wear a wrestling
It's a
shirt?
local shirt though. That's my gimmick. Is I'm the Hawaiian, so I got my Aloha not for sale shirt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Did you have? You probably have like what, 600 wrestling shirts now.
about. It's actually like 300 something, even after taking out all the shirts of people that have been rightfully canceled. So
You can wear those at home when you're, assaulting people.
wow, this is what you've come to mid card mana for. That fire content, man. Yep.
So yeah, have you kept up with anything?
I kept up with some WWE. Of course, Elimination Chamber was this past Sunday. Definitely very interesting. My mom has smartened up so much that she called the Miz coming in from like halfway through the show. She was like, "Miz is cashing in tonight," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"What? Why do you think that?" And she was like, "We saw him like talking backstage with people like 2 or 3 separate times already."
right. I
And
mean, they
I was just like, "She's figured it out."
yeah, they've become so predictable. I've pretty much quit watching WWE. Like, there's been a few times where I'm like, okay, let me tune in and see what's going on. I've caught a few pay-per-views, a few shows here and there. But for the most part, we've quit watching WWE. It's just become predictable and ridiculous in so many ways. Uh,
Yeah, I
it's
have
just
to
boring,
agree.
you know.
There's been some highlights since we've last spoken about wrestling with WWE. Um, you know, the Royal Rumble came around. They were
Mhm.
able to figure out how to do a Rumble. I was most excited about Carlito, as
Yeah,
you know.
I'm a huge Carlito fan. He's like, to see him show up, probably from the last time I've seen him, which has been quite a while. Um, like, dude's got in amazing shape.
Yeah, he's like huge now.
Yeah, like, wow, it's like holy shit. And I mean, he wasn't a really a big guy when he was in WWE before. He was like, I think he's like 6 foot. He was maybe like 220, build at 220 anyway. And yeah, dude was ripped.
He was he was jacked, and I was very surprised. Like I
Yeah,
heard the music, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Carlito!" And my parents are like, "Who?"
he's been eating more than apples.
Yeah, he's been
Probably
eating.
Primo and the other one probably ate them. Uh,
Oh, you couldn't even remember Epico, who had
Epical,
such an
that's it.
epic name.
Early. It's early. It's epically early. Uh, yeah,
It's
I
true.
mean
It's
the
6:19.
Rumble.
It's 6:19 for us here in Hawaii. We woke up early to record for
Yeah,
all 2 people that watch this show, so it feels special.
um, yeah. The Rumble itself wasn't too bad up until I felt like up until the end. Uh, it felt really predictable. Like everybody kind of already knew Edge was going to win, and I feel like those always take
I
away from the
I
Rumble.
didn't know.
You didn't
I
know?
had I
Yeah,
held out hope.
it
Somebody should have
was.
told my ass.
Yeah, Edge is going to win it, and he did, of course. And I felt like they tried to hide it, the fact that he entered at number one and just kind of never got up.
Yeah, which
through the
is
whole
interesting
thing.
to me because they had first said that Randy Orton was going to be number one, like in the couple days before. On the Friday SmackDown, they're like, Edge's going to be number one, Orton's going to be number two, and they put out like social media and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it ended up switched. So it was like, at first I was like, maybe I misunderstood, but then I went back and I found the social media that said it, and I was like, nope, that pretty clear. It says Randy Orton number one. They just switched it for no reason, similar to how they had, several days to say that Asuka was going to have a different person that she's going to be going against at Elimination Chamber, and then the day of, they're like, never mind.
Not to jump around, but speaking of Asuka, I didn't see it, but I heard that she got her teeth knocked out.
Teeth knocked out by Baszler.
Yeah. Ouch.
I mean, I love Asuka as you know. I have my hand painted Asuka mask. I have my Asuka figure and all that. But if there's one wrestler that I'm ever gonna actually look like ever in my life ever, it's Shayna Baszler. So. That's the closest I'll ever look to a wrestler. I'm too mixed to look Asian, so that's my aspiration, I guess, is to just become Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, Rumble though, I felt that it was in the bag once Christian came out. Like, oh yeah, Edge is definitely walking out.
It made sense to me. I figured that there was a high chance that Edge was going to win going in, but I hoped I was wrong. And then once I saw Christian come out, I'm like, oh, then Edge is going to win because his wife's here, his best friend's here. This is all like a celebration for him. So I'm sure he was like, hey, if I'm going over, can I get Christian in? Like, just get a spot. And who are they going to say no? They need an way, right? So,
I mean, why would they use all the hundreds of talents they have in the back? No, let's bring out Christian and Hurricane, and I think that's one of the things that has grown on me pet peeve wise. It's just the fact that they bring all these guys in for the pay-per-views where the money is, and don't use the talent they have that is just getting the under part of their contracts, really. I'm sure all the 205 guys would have loved to have been in the Rumble.
You know who I wanted, who actually hadn't debuted yet? I wanted Alex Zane to show up in Rumble. Because I felt like Alex Zane was enough of a name for like the indie fans that we would pop for it, but then still foreign enough that people who don't know wouldn't have formed an opinion on, oh, he's just some indie guy who doesn't know anything. They would get to like be won over by him in the ring, like how I've gotten to watch him live and be won over. So I was like, maybe they can't get as many nostalgia pops because a lot of the older generation of wrestlers less willing to travel to come in because of everything going on. So I was like, fingers crossed, and didn't happen. But
do you need nostalgia pops at this rate? I mean, everything's piped in. You just have fans that look like us right now in boxes. And that's your visual reaction. Everything else is pretty much piped in. I don't know. I mean, they could have used more NXT guys.
Yeah.
For sure. But
they had a lot more NXT women, which I thought was cool.
They did.
That was cool, and that's consistently kind of how they've been in the last Rumble. Mm-hmm. The last 2 years.
That was my beef with the women's Rumble too. Was half of it was like former wrestlers. It was like one or two I was excited about. I was like, oh, Victoria. I was like, oh, cool. And then it was like another one. I was waiting for them to dig up Mae Young and throw her out there in the ring.
It was not. That was their nostalgia stuff. for this one with the women was not as bad as their first one. I get why they did it for the first one, but in the first one, it was like Trish, and Lita, and I believe Kelly, and maybe Stacey Keebler was in there too, and like there were tons. It was probably because all of them came back and were like, "You're doing the first Women's Rumble, I got to be in it." And they kind of kept saying yes, and filled it up. And so, I mean, I get that was probably a thing. It was they're sort of showing retroactive respect to all these women that would have loved to have done it in the prime of their career, but didn't get that opportunity. Right. So I did enjoy that, and I like that. And you know me, I'm a sucker for nostalgia pops. Like I popped huge when Carlito came back. That made me happy.
It was
the years before I enjoyed when when Diesel comes back. Diesel is just such a character, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I enjoyed when Hurricane came back the other year. You know, I like it for these small short moments, for that 90 seconds where it's like, hey, remember this person used to wrestle, and then they get eliminated quickly.
Within context, WWE is relying on the Nostalgia Act very, very heavily now. And I mean, they just had the Legends Night not too long ago, big Nostalgia Act for the Rumble. You know, there's going to be some nostalgia for WrestleMania probably. And then we have, you know, Goldberg was back recently.
Goldberg.
It's just, it seems like it's just nonstop almost.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like cringeworthy on some level. Like, oh, God, not again.
I mean, that's how a lot of people felt with the Goldberg thing.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I would say people would have rather anybody get the title shot than Goldberg this last time. I mean, they really hit their wall on that one. Even casual fans I know were like, Goldberg? What?
Well, I mean, I think that the issue with Goldberg, or my issue with Goldberg specifically, is, yeah, he's a cool nostalgia pop for like that 90 seconds in Rumble. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they've brought him back, like 5 or 6 times in the last couple years.
Yeah,
that it's no longer filling that nostalgia sort of role. It's sort of like, oh yeah, there's Goldberg still being a part-timer, you know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. it doesn't ring as true. Like, let's say instead of Goldberg to come back, it got years ago while he was still alive, and maybe could have done not a whole lot, but you know, a spot or two. Vader.
Oh yeah.
That would have been huge.
Yeah.
Or, you know, there's a ton of big guys they could have called upon to fill that short match spot. You know, have the person that is going to go against them get or squash them real fast. Yeah. Maybe probably a heel. You know, then that'd be it. I mean, I'd be fine. I would pay to see Lex Luger get his ass kicked. You're right. Just wheel him out in the wheelchair just in the middle of the ring. No, that's right. My hate of Lex Luger is pretty deep.
But yeah, I mean, they could have pretty much booked anybody in these Goldberg spots as of late.
Could have booked you.
Yeah, could have booked me. Me versus Bray Wyatt. Me versus Undertaker. That's money. I don't know if they would have let me into Saudi Arabia, but it's money.
Yeah, you look like, you know, not blatantly anti-Saudi. You don't look like, you know,
right?
Sammy.
I know what Cody Rhodes is texting me, but anyways.
Sam Killa is all elite. It's because you look so much like an old weird Big Show's brother.
Hey, let me tell you, a few years back, anytime I flew a plane, I would get a lot of looks. Like if I wore a turban, they probably would have attacked me. Because they were like, what? With the beard and everything. And I think it was like a little bit before the beards were in, really. And yeah, I would get looks flying on a plane. It's like, really, just because I look like every race, pretty much, does not mean I am.
You've just got to go hard with like a Southern accent. You've gotta pull that Kentucky accent out. You gotta, because it'll immediately discern people. I'm right.
It just depends. I got the weird accent, like it's like Southern, but local kicks in sometimes, and it's like comes off. They don't know what to do.
You should, if the Southern Brute ever comes back to Oos Wrestling, because he moved back to the mainland. If the Southern Brute ever comes back to Oos Wrestling, you should 100% just manage him. Just saying.
Yeah, I'd be for that. I just have to have it in my ear a little bit, and then it comes back like really thick, and it's awful.
That's like speaking Pidgin, just in general. You can go long periods of time without speaking Pidgin, and then suddenly somebody speaks Pidgin, and all of a sudden it just all pours out.
That's how it is.
Yep.
So yeah, that's WWE. I haven't been really caught up with it, but even in the absence of not watching it like forever, like every show, every day, like not a lot has changed. The Hurt Business is still not really getting their due, in my opinion. They put a lot of effort into Retribution, but at the pay-per-views, where are they?
And as you know, it's my guy, Mustafa Ali.
Like the Rumble should have been, if you're going with that storyline, the Rumble should have been for Retribution. Like the numbers game is there, but nothing.
They were weird about how they restricted the main roster factions.
Yeah,
with putting forth a single representative from each of their people. So I think for Retribution it was T-Bar. It was either T-Bar or Mace, I forget. For the for the Rumble, and then for Hurt Business, I believe their representative was Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
So I thought that was weird. I was like, wouldn't you?
Especially if you consider, these are big parts of the main show.
Yeah. I truly thought that they were going to have a moment where Cedric Alexander finally breaks away from Hurt Business, because they've kind of been teasing it, right? He's been having a lot of tension with Shelton Benjamin, and MVPs had to kind of wrangle him in. So I'm like, what if Cedric Alexander goes to management and he's like, you know what? I'm on a spot.
I hope not.
One half of Raw Tag Team Champs. I should get an opportunity. I'm a champion in this business. I should get to be in the Rumble, and then just have that be a surprise where,
I like how this has built Cedric up. Really showed a little bit of depth to his character and everything. I'll be honest, when they wanted Ricochet to join, I was like hopeful he would. Everybody's wanting Ricochet to join either Retribution or Hurt Business or something, and he needs it. Because
he does.
Wrong, and we talked about this a lot. When he come in, it was just like untouchable, and it hurt him, in my opinion. Because once Vince was done with his toys, he put them on the shelf and he was done with it.
Yeah,
and that's been Ricochet. It's been Aleister Black. It's been Andrade. It's been Garza. Garza should be the one main eventing WrestleMania, in my opinion.
Garza who just breathes charisma, it just, everything he does it so wholeheartedly that you kind of just can't help but get into it. I've always been before hearing him cut promos and just watching him in the ring, I've kind of been like, yeah, he's all right, and then hearing him actually interact in interviews and talk more and cut a promo, I'm just like,
right.
He's good. He's great. Yeah.
this is going to be the guy that they let slip, in my opinion. It's going to be the one where they go, well, creative's got nothing for you. We tried the ladies' man thing. We tried the Andrade thing. We tried this. We tried that. It's like, did you? Because he's committed to these things, but you guys have not capitalized on it.
Well, then the thing that makes me sad is I had so much hope for his sort of alliance with Andrade, even though it kind of was precarious. They kind of weren't always seeing eye to eye. Because Andrade is, with Charlotte, and that means that he's probably one of the most protected people that we don't get to see that much.
Yeah.
Because they love Charlotte. She's a Flair, and that's like, she has a type, and I don't blame her because Andrade is also my type. But like, if they were to threaten him at all, she would kick a fit.
Mm-hmm.
And she would save him. And for that, I am thankful, because I really like Andrade, and I miss him.
But
I hoped that he would come back and Rumble.
That's the problem right now, is that they've and I think they're using this as an excuse right now to sit on him with the pandemic and everything. There's probably a lot of empty promises going around, but man, talk about just sitting on someone and wasting them. Everybody loves Andrade, and I feel like he's one of these guys who eventually he's going to get fed up with it.
He will, because they treat, and I imagine, and I mean, I'm guilty of it just now. We're talking about him more on like he's Charlotte's guy. But before that, he was a legend in Mexico. He started the original Los Ingobernables with El Terrible,
And that's where I'd like to see him go, is New Japan.
I mean, he's done it as La Sombra. He's done that crossover stuff. I think he was part of either a G1 or a Best of Super Junior a couple years back. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check. But I mean, dude is so good and super, super, super underrated, I feel. Getting to see him live when I went to the Raw and SmackDown a couple years ago in Louisiana, where everybody shit on the crowd because they were like, "Oh, you guys aren't cheering loud enough." And I'm like, because the security is telling us to sit our asses back down. They're not letting us like jump up and cheer. And then he came to Hawaii and he fought Kevin Owens. And of course, Kevin Owens was the face in that match, so I'm cheering for Kevin Owens. But then, since Andrade's in the corner that's right in front of where I'm sitting, I just they did like a whole how he does his like sexy shirt take off thing or sexy thing, and I just scream. I'm just like, whoa! And he turns around and looks at me, and he's like, what?
Speaking of Kevin Owens, we cannot continue any further until we talk about Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Just the one spot to me, because I thought that match was really pretty good up until he lost, because that's when I was sad too. Until what? Backstage, when Roman got handcuffed to the backstage thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah. I was just like.
I was just like, why don't you stand up? Your arms are not so short that you wouldn't be able to do it. Like I'm like, we know your body proportions, dog. You can stand up or like even crouch and still be on your feet.
Right.
Just so, Filipino squat, man. Just so like.
There you go.
Yeah.
The referee comes out and he's counting Owens, and then Owens gets up, of course, and he looks over at Roman and he's just kind of like, 6. I'm like, oh my god.
7. Yeah, I know. I'm just like, what was the plan here? Who missed their cue? Because somebody missed their cue.
Heyman couldn't run over and kicked him in the balls, or just something. Roman
Jey Uso could have come out and just super kicked him real fast. I know he wasn't cleared for competition, but that's a single spot. Like his injury, I don't think, was to his legs, so he probably could have done something.
And it was just like, oh my God. And so I actually rewound it, and I counted like, I don't know, 20.
5.
And I was just like, are you kidding me? And then like it was shortly after, of course, like Owens gets knocked out or whatever, and they're like, what do you think, Professor? I was like, oh my God, you ruined a good match. You made yourself look like idiots in the process.
Yeah, no, it was that to me, I was just blown away. Like it was, I'm just like, you guys are, essentially stage performers. I get that you don't have a crowd anymore, so maybe you're more going with the benefit of, hey, we're recording, some stuff gets recorded, maybe this will be recorded, and we don't gotta improvise. But then it was just like, there's so many things that could have bought time, you know what I mean, that would have made more sense than just the ref being like, 7. Like, and like my family called it out too. That was I love when my family, my mom and dad, my auntie, uncle, my grandpa, my cousin, it's just like, why are they doing that? That doesn't make any sense. I'm like, you're right, it doesn't.
Like, they couldn't have thought of something on the fly.
And that's what makes me sad, because I think Kevin Owens could have, and I think probably Roman Reigns also could have. But I think truly, I do. I don't think he's stupid. I think at this point he's enough of a performer that he probably could have. He probably was just sort of like waiting for the spot and didn't want to go off script, even in that small way.
Honestly, I think it was Vince and them playing a prank on Paul Heyman. And in retrospect,
I'm sorry. You're probably right.
It probably wasn't too smart, but they probably thought, oh, well, it's not going to go that long over. But, I think they played a prank on him, and it backfired, really.
I mean, it sure did backfire, regardless of whether or not it was a prank.
It was just awful.
Sure did not go over well.
I wonder if they'll edit it out.
just edit out of replays. Yeah. That way people aren't like,
what just the referee standing there without saying anything. And then he just kind of like fades away.
Or they'll splice in a spot where somebody comes and kicks the ref in the balls. Yano will come and kick the ref in the balls.
They just kind of like, somebody comes in.
Yep.
Digitally. I don't know. What other WWE news? They just hired a bunch, like a shit ton.
Yeah, they signed a bunch of people, notably
not NXT, but Performance Center.
Yeah, notable people include Priscilla Kelly, who is in the Mae Young Classic. Interesting choice. She's had to edit the harlot out of her gimmick, so it just is Hell's Favorite now.
It'll be interesting to see where they go with it. If they let her have any, I doubt they will, have any creative input for quite a while.
They've already renamed her as Gigi Dolan, which I'm just like, is this like a rib on Gigi Allen? Is this is this just because you don't want the name Priscilla Kelly, which is already kind of famous, like in indie wrestling?
I said that name would carry some baggage for them. For WWE.
I mean, especially with the whole Darby Allin thing.
Yeah.
I guess I can understand that.
The one that surprises me the most, I guess, is Eli Drake.
Yeah, that was weird. He's actually not announced as part of this class, too. Because I think he went straight to TV. Yeah.
This dude, he's just ready to go. But his name, I can't remember what the name was.
LA Knight. Yeah, I didn't understand it.
I would have either kept Eli or I would have kept Drake. I don't understand.
They already have a Drake Maverick. They couldn't keep just Drake.
Well, they keep Eli Knight or Eli whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're also always seem like hell bent on having different weird names, not paying anything up for heritage or who the performer was before or something to garner that attention.
I think it's because they don't want to. I think for some people they do. I think for the people that they deem who have a reputation that is WWE acceptable and big enough that they will.
Like they
like Nakamura
kept
his name. AJ Styles kept his name.
And AJ was fine with it, except he was like, but I got this big tattoo on the side that says AJ, so I don't know what you want to do with that. so they ended up keeping his name. But I think some people have talked about how they kept their name just because they fought for it. They made their career on those names, so some of them really fought to keep their name.
Yeah, and this is my comparison, I guess. You talked about AJ Styles. I talked about Nakamura. The class, not right before them, but a little bit before them, there was Prince Devitt and Kenta, who both had name changes to Finn Balor and Hideo Itami.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting because I felt like both of them were famous enough in their own right with their names existing that it would have benefited them more to have kept their names, because then for a while people were like, Finn Balor, who is that? And then you'd be like, Prince Devitt, and then you're like, oh, why did they change his name?
Right. And yeah, like a lot of people would probably go, Kenta and Hideo. Like,
people have already forgotten that he was called Hideo Itami, and rightfully so. Kenta, outside of WWE, has unfortunately been able to accomplish way more, from his time before in Noah to now in New Japan.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I understand like some of it legally, but beyond that, I don't know. Also of note in this upcoming crew is Rick Steiner's son.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see, if they'll be able to do anything with him or not. Which I would suspect he's going to be, such a natural. How do you not use him? There's some marketing there.
Hopefully they'll keep his name too.
They screw it up. Like if you don't call him a Steiner,
right?
It's going to be ridiculous. But I would have said the same thing about, Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
Do not recognize that heritage.
Yeah.
Especially within WWE. I mean, Wyndham and Rotunda were tag team champions. That's a lot of heritage right there that you just gloss over. But they've done it before.
Truly, I wonder if that was by the guys' individual choices. Maybe they were like, I don't wanna be,
because in Florida,
like a replica.
In maybe not NXT, they may have changed by then, but at least when it was Florida, they were going by, it was Wyndham Rotundo and Taylor Rotundo.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like they were not using the names.
True.
WWE prior. So
I think Bo Dallas would have definitely benefited from going with the name.
Maybe.
I think Bray Wyatt though probably enjoys getting to creatively explore outside of it. And of course, as we both talked about a ton, he's just so good at that character building and that world creating and then tying it all back together. Like, just good stuff.
So yeah, I think to me that's WWE in a nutshell. I don't know if you want to speculate on anything moving toward WrestleMania or not.
Oh, I would like to speculate with you because I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And you were actually the person I was like, I gotta talk to Sam. We gotta record soon because I want to see it. I want to get it recorded.
The rumors that I've heard, of course, with Miz winning, everything was.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about.
His feud with Bad Bunny, which a lot of people, I think, stateside are like, what? Why? And I think they fail to understand that Bad Bunny is money. Maybe not the States, but like the rest of the world. This dude is like so far above WWE.
Yeah, he's huge. He's definitely getting attention, and they're just really lucky that the guy happens to be a mark. Like
he's a huge mark, right? So, but I was like thinking, I was like, it doesn't make sense though. Like I get it, like Miz strapping him, it might add a little bit of flavor to the match, or whatever they're going to do with him. But it doesn't make sense why you would throw the title in there. Like just from a booking standpoint, that's going to draw no matter what. If you have Miz versus Bad Bunny, I think the biggest thing that bothered me was like, why not strap Morrison if you're strapping Miz? Because then Morrison gets a bit of a rub. You know what I mean? And he needs it. Sorry, Morrison was kind of big on the indies and Impact, but like right now he's like a step away from being Ricochet at the moment.
Yeah, and that hurts. And funny you mentioned that because I've been doing a Lucha Underground rewatch with one of my other friends.
Morrison is great. Morrison is okay. Me and John was talking about this the other day. And John's kind of like pissed off about it because like Morrison, when he lays in a punch, it's like, he doesn't. There's no Stone Cold there. Like Stone Cold talks about, he's like he wants to feel it a little bit. That's not Morrison, man. My 20-month-old could hit harder than John Morrison. You know what I'm saying?
I like John Morrison. I respect that he's gone and done this thing in so many different places, and he's used when he was the guy. You know what I mean? For a lot of these companies, he used that to help other people get over, and I got nothing but respect for that. And I mean, I'm excited now because now one of the big signees in this last class is Taya Valkyrie, his wife. So I'm hoping this is my dream scenario. Miz carries all the way to Mania, keeps the belt. He's defending it against Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman, I think. Miz keeps the belt till Mania, and then Taya Valkyrie comes out and costs him the match, and they're all like, "Who? What? Huh?" And then the Miz, not the Miz, but John Morrison and Taya Valkyrie pose at the top of the ramp as Miz gets pinned. And then they're like, "Who is this mystery woman?" Oh, it's Taya. What's that?
I don't see it happening.
It won't happen. It absolutely will not happen. But that's my dream.
Crazier things have happened in WWE. They've done some weird shit. So who knows?
It's not gonna happen. They're not gonna think to use Taya that fast.
Strapping Morrison until WrestleMania would have been fine. It wouldn't have gotten in anybody's way. You'd give Morrison a little bit of legitness, a little bit more of a rub than just a tag title reign. They didn't do it, obviously, which none of that made sense. Just because you have MVP talking in Miz's ear and Morrison's in there fighting Lashley. It was just like none of it gelled with me.
It seemed very like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Even though it's not like Miz could have controlled Morrison winning or losing in that, but it read weird. Yeah,
that would have been better, I guess. I don't know. Of course, we got out of it was Matt Riddle as champion. I'm not a big Riddle fan.
I used to like Matt Riddle until I found out he was a shitty person.
Yeah. So then let's see. So Miz gets it. So the rumor is that Bobby Lashley is going to win it on Monday.
I've heard that rumor as well, and I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I think what they're going to try to do, and everybody's kind of speculating, is that we're going to get Lesnar versus Lashley at WrestleMania. And while
Also okay with them.
while that might be good, I don't want it for the title. Uh, and what I feel bad about is that McIntyre has carried them through this pandemic.
Yeah, he hasn't had a live audience in his entire title run.
He's carried them through this pandemic.
And it makes me very sad.
It does. He's got two very shitty finishes to his title reigns. And it's just, I feel bad for the guy. Like the Orton loss was out of the blue and served no purpose. I feel like this loss to the Miz serves no purpose. Like it was done okay. Like he got beat up by Lashley or whatever. But unless they turn it around and say, like it's Miz versus Lashley versus Lesnar versus McIntyre, do like a 4-way. It's not.
That would be cool. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
I don't see the payoff. Lashley versus Lesnar, just that in of itself to me would be a fine match, but it doesn't need the title. It doesn't need the title any more than Miz versus Bad Bunny. So yeah, I don't think.
Isn't it weird how the most interesting title program going into WrestleMania, as far as men's titles go, is Reigns versus Edge?
Yeah, and that one doesn't even honestly interest me. For a long time they've been trying to build up a spear versus spear match between Roman and someone. They're getting it, and I'm sure the match will be fine. But long term, I look at it like, okay, why would you put Edge over when Roman has been carrying SmackDown? It's been one of the him and Jey Uso or one of the Usos was the hottest storyline in forever.
It's like, where's my Uso hat? Somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, why would you strap Edge at this point? It's not like he could carry the belt for a long time, in my opinion.
He shouldn't anyway. I think he definitely could. I think he still has enough of that nostalgia draw.
I think they will, honestly.
But
I think
but he shouldn't. It shouldn't happen. It will. It might happen. I'm very apprehensive about the fact that it might happen. I think because of a Jey Uso face turn. I think that it'll happen because of that, but I don't want it to happen. Not yet. Not with Edge. I think the person that takes it off of Reigns should be a newer talent than Edge, and that's not to say that I hate Edge. I actually really like Edge. Edge has my favorite spear, honestly. But it's his time has come and gone. I was happy for him in his return, similar to how I was happy with Daniel Bryan and Daniel Bryan's return after he was forced into retirement. It was nice. And I mean, for a lot of these guys, wrestling has been their whole life and all they know. And for them to be able to come back to it definitely inspiring. But the case with Daniel Bryan and the case with Edge are two very different cases. There was a lot shorter of a time where Daniel Bryan was retired than Edge. Daniel Bryan never, and I hate to say it like this, Daniel Bryan never gave up trying to get back to the ring, whereas Edge kind of had accepted it for a while and then saw Daniel Bryan and was like, maybe I don't need to accept this. But Daniel Bryan is very well chronicled in the Total Divas and Total Bellas and in WWE and all their shows, supplemental programming. He was asking doctors left and right. He was still trying to keep in ring shape. He wanted to keep fit. He wanted to change his style of wrestling so that maybe it would be less impactful on the parts that they were concerned about, the head and neck and all that. and he kept training and kept doing this and kept doing that and taking tests and all that, and stayed very involved in the WWE as like on the side, just in case, he was SmackDown SmackDown general manager with Shane McMahon. He called the Cruiserweight Classic. He was involved with not necessarily managing, but being like a managerial kind of figure for some people, hyping people up, talking with people. So he never got too far away from it. He never went out and did other stuff. You know what I mean? And and not to disparage Edge for doing it, because Edge, of course, he was given a pretty serious prognosis and kind of tried to make peace with it. But Daniel Bryan's a different machine. He's the American Dragon, and I think that his situation is so different from so many others because the fact that I think that if Daniel Bryan couldn't find his way back to wrestling somehow, he would just fall apart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it already did state, like, if WWE was going to bring him back, he was going to go somewhere else. Even if he was only wrestling like 2 or 3 times a year, he was going to go elsewhere.
And so many places would have welcomed him with open arms. New Japan would have signed him in a second. Ring of Honor would have signed him in a second.
Impact.
If AEW was had started just a little bit earlier, like a year earlier, they would have scooped him.
Daniel Bryan versus Sami Callihan. Oh my God. The fear would have been by rights alone. All right, moving on from WWE. I mean, that's WrestleMania in a nutshell. There's nothing, in my opinion, that has been set up storyline-wise. Like, it's on the cusp of happening, and they've got nothing. Except
hopefully it'll kick up faster soon.
Roman versus that's it.
And Bianca versus Sasha was announced.
Yeah,
that's official. What's that?
I mean, there's nothing that interests me with WWE at the moment.
I'm excited for Sasha versus Bianca. I feel like Bianca will probably lose. Because I love Bianca Belair. I was so happy when she won, because I like her story, and she is just she took to pro wrestling pretty well, pretty fast.
Yeah,
she is a natural. She's one of the as naturals could be as far as their homegrown talent, because she's one of the last, I think, homegrown talents.
But I don't know. Moving on, other news. We have a crazy time in wrestling right now. That it's crazy enough that we get another company like AEW to pop up with money and the ability to put the right people in the right place as far as
those connections.
You have someone who like, a lot of things fell in place for AEW very well, as far as you get Jim Ross, you got Jericho, you got Moxley, so you got a couple big names, you got a huge assortment of indie darlings, but beyond that, it's just the backstage aspect. You got Malenko, you got Anderson, you got Blanchard, you've got Paul White now, which coming. That
was genuinely surprising. I thought it was a joke. Yeah, I thought it was a joke, and then I saw it pop up more and more, and then I saw the articles pop up, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't like kayfabe new. This is like real."
Right. You always means that so and so is all all elite. They're all in, and John sent it to me, and I was like, "What?" And
you're like, "No way."
Wait a minute, is this one like the Onion or something? And then I looked on Twitter real quick, and I saw Tony Khan had shared it like 7 minutes ago, and I was like, holy shit, like, this is legit. Like, Big Show has...
Big Show wanted that match with Shaq so bad. He wants revenge.
I don't think
he's out for revenge. I don't think that's it, but that's what I'm saying. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Because Big Show got into incredible shape for that match, and Shaq just wussed out, man.
Well, just just like in general, Big Show has gotten into amazing shape. And like a couple things stand out to me. Like you got Big Show, you got a couple big dudes over there that can extremely benefit from the knowledge that he's gathered. So,
I mean,
like,
you have some small guys too that could. Marco Stunt apparently is super excited because Big Show is one of his idols, even though the size disparity is huge.
Interesting, yeah. But I mean, and it's kind of true. Like you have a couple guys over there big, and they're trying to do this crazy shit. And I think you have a guy like Big Show can say, "Look, you need to slow it down. You need to do this. You need to do that.
Your focus needs to be like this if you're gonna be that big guy character."
Yeah,
I'm excited to see how Luchasaurus will kind of come along with this.
me too. Even Lance Archer, like he's a veteran and everything, and he has a pretty good moveset. But I mean, he still does like that moonsault off the top.
Well,
like,
true. Archer's sort of style is more similar to Undertaker-ish because he likes to do the walk in on the rope sort of thing. He likes to throw in that kind of stuff.
If I was Archer, I'd probably save that for like pay-per-views only or something. But yeah, I think having Big Show on the team is going to be a great benefit for them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, they're in Florida. He's in Florida. It almost seems like it was a perfect mix, and I think that was probably the thing. It's like, hey, we'll give you this much. You're home, and you're going to work like 4 times a year. Like,
well, he's calling their Monday YouTube shows.
Yeah, it's going to be great
with Shivani, which I'm excited about because I also love Tony Schiavone.
Let's see other things with AEW, like they're the
exploding barbed wire death match between Mox and Omega at Revolution.
Tony Khan and Vince McMahon, like the biggest difference is Vince wants to control everything, and Tony Khan's like, hey, you want to work together? So I mean, it's like we have NWA working with AEW, we have Impact working with AEW, we have New Japan now working with AEW, and it's crazy that we're finally getting some cross promotional stuff, which has been great.
And I think honestly, it'll make at least merch money all around, if not money all around, just regular money all around.
It's breathed new life into Bullet Club, in my opinion.
Hey, always been Bullet Club for life, man. Even though I think I have more LIJ stuff, but
what's that? Crazy idea.
What's that?
So you got Big Show coming in.
Okay.
The Bullet Club has primarily always been Gaijin. What they could do is use Big Show.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So to speak, for Bullet Club, right? And unite across the board. Imagine Big Show going to Japan and being in Jay White's corner and helping him win the IWGP title. With boom, that big fist.
I'm going to quote Kenta. I'm going to quote Kenta for that idea because Kenta, as he said to Kenny Omega when Kenny was like, "Oh yeah, Kenta, Brother Switchblade didn't tell me you were coming here," and Kenta's like, "Fuck you, I'm not your friend."
You ain't got to be friends though, you know what I'm saying? And then Big Show helping Kenny Omega win the Impact title.
But I don't count what they've got going on here as Bullet Club. I'm just saying it's not Bullet Club.
That's the story.
It's the elite, the elite.
So I mean, it could be interesting if they would do that though. I mean, you would have a cross promotional group again, and
I'm gonna
for it. You going back to bed?
Yeah, just done with it.
You'd have a cross promotional face for it with Paul White. I mean, New Japan could not turn that down even. You know, that would be huge for them as well as all the other groups, all the other companies.
All right, I'm gonna rib you, and I don't know if this is gonna hurt, but man, isn't it sad? And I would like to preface this with the fact that I do pay for Talkin' Shop, which is the Gallows and Anderson Rocky Romero podcast I pay the $20 a month to be part of that. But isn't it so sad that, Gallows and Anderson miss being part of Bullet Club so bad that they've been in not one, not two, but three Bullet Club ripoffs?
Yeah. I mean, really. But I mean, like, at the same point, it's like Anderson, at least, was an original, you know. So it's like, even if we look at it now over in Japan, like, I know they own the rights to it and everything, but it's like, besides Tama and Fale, you look at it, and it's like, I mean, it's a good faction, I feel now, but at the same time, it's not what it was originally. You know what I mean? I'm
That's right. It's better because they cut the dead weight.
They did,
They didn't cut all the dead weight. Chase Owens is still in Bullet Club.
I think the biggest problem with Bullet Club was that when the Elite split, there was that Elite Bullet Club thing. There was no resolution. There really wasn't. We didn't get the big payoff.
No, as much as I do like AEW, and I love Kenny, I like the Bucks, I like Cody, but they kind of took their ball and ran and went home.
Yeah.
They didn't allow resolution because they kind of played stuff up and then ignored it until they were gone.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of like shoots.
I do feel like that's part of the booking as well. It's like Japan decided to go in one direction versus what they had on the table. Because, Japan books out fairly far in advance.
Yeah.
And when it was like, there's this, we're going to do this, they didn't have the time to alter their plans.
Yeah, so I think they slotted Switchblade kind of in where they had imagined Kenny to go, which is why Switchblade got the title so fast. I feel like that's why Switchblade kind of was hot-shotted. And when you look at his time in New Japan, it feels like it was so much longer than it has been.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a time before Switchblade came back from excursion, but it feels so much longer ago than it actually was.
Yeah.
Because I think of how quickly things happened for him. He's been IWGP Intercontinental and IWGP World Heavyweight Champion separately. He hasn't held the belts together, but he's climbed to the top of that mountain before.
So it's interesting. I don't know if anything will come of it, but since they're working together, I'm hoping we'll get something. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, there's plenty of stuff on social media, them trying to play something up storyline wise.
So have you watched New Japan last night's New Japan Strong, Mox versus Kenta?
No, I heard the results, but I didn't really watch it.
So you know who won?
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about that. Jon Moxley, of course, has held the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship since last year, when he re-won it at Wrestle Kingdom against Lance Archer in the street fight. And hasn't really, of course, with everything shutting down, and that's not Mox's fault, hasn't really got not even that in the last year.
Suzuki.
He fought Suzuki.
Yeah, he fought Suzuki. Did he fight Juice?
He fought. Oh, he the next night he won it the first night and defended against Juice, and then defended against Suzuki in the February shows. This was his third defense. Yeah. His third successful defense. Of course, Jon Moxley walked away with the titles still, surprising many, because unless there was a change in his contract with AEW, they made a special exception to have him wrestle for New Japan in the United States, which he previously was not allowed to do, which is why he's had so few title defenses. So I don't know if New Japan was sort of like, hey, you feature our title on your show more,
Why not?
and we'll send over some of our guys. We'll be more open to having Naito, Okada, Tanahashi, more Bullet Club.
Okada is going somewhere. And
Yeah,
I'm
they've
assuming-
confirmed that Okada, once travel restrictions are lifted, Okada will perform for a U.S. company that's not New Japan or Ring of Honor.
It's crazy. It could be huge, you know.
It'll be Impact. They'll do him right this time instead of being Okada.
Who knows? I mean, really, who knows? Impact and New Japan don't have a really strong relationship at the moment, but
From what I understand,
there's a lot of misunderstandings.
And I don't remember what news source I saw, if it was a podcast of Don Callis or whatever, but apparently Don Callis and Scott D'Amore, before pre-pandemic sometime, I forget if it was early 2020 or 2019 or whatnot, they went and talked to the New Japan locker room, and they were like, we're sorry with how stuff was run before and how the management before didn't give your stars the proper respect or give them the proper storylines. We're sorry about that. We're in charge now, so we hope that we can maybe rebuild the relationship. We promise that we will be more receptive to ideas, and we want your stars to look as good as we want our stars to look, and all that. Like, I don't know the specific details of if that was received well or if that mended the fence totally, but I do remember hearing that olive branch was extended.
Of course, New Japan's under new management too now.
Yes.
So, who knows? Speaking of Japan, I don't know how much you keep up with Noah.
Oh, new champ.
Noah and 001 or Dragon Gate. I can't remember. Dragon Gate, I believe.
Dragon Gate, I'm not as caught up on. But of course, the Noah one everybody knows, because now Muta, Keiji Muto, is one of the three that have held the big three titles: the Triple Crown in All Japan, the Noah GHC, and the IWGP World Heavyweight. It's him, Takayama, and Sasaki, Kensuke Sasaki.
Yeah. They've also rebranded since this Muta title win. So it's interesting. It's all come together. He signed I believe, a 3-year deal.
Yep.
So kind of crazy. I did watch that match, that title match.
I didn't get to see it yet.
40, 50.
I bought it. Like, I bought the pay-per-view for it.
Oh yeah.
But I plan on watching it sometime, hopefully this weekend. I'll have the time. I bet. I mean, Shiozaki has carried the promotion on his back for the last year during this pandemic. Everything. They lost a lot of everything.
I mean, they lost Kenta. They lost, so many people, and almost went out of business. And like WWE almost bought them out, I believe.
Yeah.
At least that was the rumor.
Well, I mean, WWE had been trying to get in their good graces for a while, because they had allowed Kenta to go back there at Hideo Itami and perform for the Marufuji show, I believe.
Yeah. And they were kind of mad when Kenta went to New Japan. They kind of felt like that was a slap in the face, supposedly. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes with Muto there. A lot of people are upset about it, though. The diehard Noah fans seem to be upset that here you have Muto coming in.
I'm bummed in the sense that I liked Go. Go is one of my favorite Japanese wrestlers outside of New Japan. I'm a little bit less versed in some of the other promotions. I know Noah a little bit better than I know All Japan or DDT Pro or Dragon Gate. At least right now, anyway. I know that was a little bit better, maybe about 5 years back. But yeah, I'm sad because I thought he had a really good run as champion, and I'm sad that it's over. I'm glad for him in the sense that, or in the same way, I'm glad for Okada, because Okada, watching him in tag matches now, he seems to be having so much more fun.
Yeah.
Like he seems so much more joyful in matches rather than being so serious all the time. And I can't imagine how much of a relief that must be, where you don't have to go out there and defend a belt every time. You don't have to be that big company champion. You can go out and wrestle the 10-minute sort of funny match where you and Yoshihashi and Goto are drumming on somebody's back. That I imagine that's a lot of fun. And for somebody that has wrestled so seriously for a while, and I'm speaking of both Okada and Shiozaki, it must be a nice break.
I would think so. Jun Akiyama it could be DDT Pro. I'm not sure. He's the champion somewhere else now, and signed a couple years deal with that company, which is kind of huge because Akiyama's a pretty big name in Japan too. But both of those guys are advanced in age.
Yeah.
So that's also an interesting aspect of something going on right now in Japan. So it'll be interesting to see where Japan goes in all these different directions. A lot of big news coming out. I haven't really heard anything about All Japan that much lately.
All Japan, I try and at least read up on and keep tabs on certain things because, as you know, our Unify Wrestling Entertainment, our US champion, or one of our US champions, the Corona Premier Intercontinental Champion is Yoshitatsu.
Yeah, he's been
and that belt technically is a 24/7 rules. So any pin that you take is a pin for that belt technically. As is, that's what 24/7 rules are, as you know. But Yoshitatsu, actually, he was a double champ. He had their equivalent of a television championship. I forget what the exact title is, but he lost it. Do you know who he lost it to?
I do not.
Japanese deathmatch legend Jun Kasai.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm campaigning for Jun Kasai to be our Corona Premier Intercontinental Champion.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's technically, I keep telling everyone in US, I'm like, so you said it was 24/7 rules, right? Like that means any pin counts as a pin for the belt. So that means Jun Kasai is our champ. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, Yoshitatsu lost.
Fully support you on that.
That's my campaign. I want it to happen. So first, I wanted Kento Miyahara to beat him for the belt, or beat him for something like a non-title match, and then have Kento be our champ. Because I was like, man, I would love to see Kento come over to US, but man, Jun Kasai. If they have Jun Kasai come and do a match, they're probably not going to let us back into whatever venue they do it on Oahu, but that'll be totally worth it.
I think that's all I've got. I don't have any other real news. Yeah.
I know. Stardom has their Budokan show on the 3rd. Their All-Star Cinderella tournament. So I'm hoping that one of the people that comes back, because they had mentioned that Kairi Sane, formerly Kairi Hojo, who used to be big in Stardom before she signed with the WWE, had asked WWE if she could be allowed to perform, and they were like, nope. It's sort of like, really? You got 2 out of their 3 biggest Joshi stars from Stardom, and you're not gonna like pay it back at all. But that's disappointing. But in my unpopular but still biggest wish is that Kagetsu comes back. That's what I want.
Eventually, her contract will run out.
Well, no. Kagetsu retired when they signed with Bushiroad, because apparently Bushiroad was not high on Kagetsu. But she's great. I love her. she is one of my idols, and especially with everything going on with Stardom right now, I've only been able to keep sort of peripheral track because I haven't gotten to watch much Stardom World. But I know yet another person just turned on Mayu Iwatani. Oedo Tai has Natsuko Tora as champion, and it's kind of faded a little bit to the background. Julia has a hair versus hair match with Tom Nakano, in which one of them will probably shave their head at that Budokan show. That'll be fun. Trying to think, is there any stuff? Oh, the AEW Women's Eliminator Tournament. Have you gotten to see much of that?
I haven't gotten to watch too much of it, but I've kept up with it a little bit.
I'm still going for a Mizunami for the Japan bracket. She beat Maki Ito and Kong.
I'm surprised she beat Kong. Honestly.
I know. I really thought she wasn't, but as I was looking through the back bracket, I thought Maki Ito was going to go farther because she's so popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh man, Maki's going to make it second round, and then she's going to have to go up against Kong. And I was like, and then that's going to be the end there. But she didn't, and Mizunami went and got the pin over both of them. So I'm hoping that it's Ryo Mizunami.
I mean, you really couldn't have Kong win the bracket, honestly.
I mean, you could. You would just get criticism, and that's not to say anything against her status as a Japanese wrestling legend. Aside from male or female, she's just a Japanese wrestling legend at this point. Not to say anything against that, but of course, and it was so funny. Somebody pointed it out, and I had to laugh. They said, I loved how she's changed her gimmick to just being an old wrestler. And I was like, oh no. But then I looked at it, I'm like, I mean, that's understandable and also kind of true. She's feeling the effects of time, as are so many other older wrestlers. It's an understandable thing. I think that it was a good choice to have that kind of shown a little bit more, in the sense that it made it for those of us that remember her being the unstoppable beast that so many female wrestlers today wish they could be.
Right.
Seeing that she's worn down a little bit more. She can't hit those points or those moves like she could before, so it made it a little bit easier to digest for me. And I like Mizunami, but it made it easier to sort of be like, I can understand now.
Yeah.
More believable. Yeah. Who do you think's gonna win the U.S. side?
Oh no, I think it probably will be Britt Baker.
Britt Baker, DMD.
Yeah, I think it might be her time. Everybody's kind of warmed up to her, whereas before, I feel like she was just kind of annoyingly the Doctor and Adam Cole's girlfriend.
I mean, her heel turn has really, really, really helped her in a way that she had like nothing. And I don't mean this in a mean way. She's a talented performer. She's got a doctorate, and she's an actual doctor in dentistry, but as a face, she just couldn't get any traction, and it was hard to get behind her as a face because so much of her identity was, I'm a dentist and also dating Adam Cole. But now being the sort of the cocky doctor with the waiting room and, you know, shitting on Tony Schiavone and all that, like, it's given her a whole lot more character stuff to work with. So people react to her more strongly. And yeah, as a heel, there's more booze, but as a heel, that's what you want also. So
it's very interesting. Like, you know, I follow a lot of the figure groups and whatnot too.
yeah.
I've noticed there's been a huge outcry for a Britt Baker figure.
Yeah,
And
the AEW figures, I think they only have 2 or 3 women. They have Brandy, they have Nyla, and they have Riho. I don't think they even have a Shida. Or they might be coming out with a Shida soon.
They have they did a Brandy Rhodes figure, the first release, and they have a Riho figure, and I think that's it right now.
Maybe there's a Nyla that's gonna be in the works, because I remember seeing something of a Nyla Rose. It could just be like a custom too.
And there is a Britt Baker coming out, but it's interesting that they actually trolled the guy that does all the figures. Really trolled everybody and said there was going to be a Britt Baker Cody Rhodes 2-pack. Because everybody's complained that, you know, there's like 6 Cody Rhodes figures, there's no Britt Baker figure yet. And so he trolled everybody with this, and like even Ringside Collectibles put up this meme, coming soon, and it's like, thank goodness they didn't do a pre-order for it, because they were being trolled. Everybody was being trolled by the guy who does it. But he later on that day said no, there will be a Britt Baker coming out in by the end of the year, I think. But it was,
man, look at Cody Rhodes. He's before the end of his career, he's gonna be the person that has the most different, or most amount of different figures of him.
Probably will. I mean, he's got all the Mattel figures.
Yeah, there's still Stardust figures.
Yeah, I'm feel sure there's a Ring of Honor figure out there. You know,
I think there's a Bullet Club New Japan one for when he was in Bullet Club.
So it's interesting. You know, I think Cody in general will go down as one of the most popular wrestlers of this generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because, I mean, the breadth of his legacy, you know, just in-ring legacy alone, from WWE to everything he did on the Indies, then Ring of Honor and New Japan.
He's one of the few, I think, in his first year after being released by the WWE in that calendar year, that those 365 days or whatever, he was one of the few that performed in WrestleMania, Final Battle, Impact's final show, and Wrestle Kingdom, all in that same year. Yeah. I think he was the first person to do all 4 of those in a year. So I mean, like, you're totally right. His legacy is pretty undeniable.
I don't know if he gets a lot of heat sometimes from.
Oh, tons of heat.
You know,
tons of heat. He gets tons of heat, and I kind of go back and forth with how much I feel like it's warranted. Sometimes I'm like, come on, but other times I can kind of understand. I mean, there's some oversaturation sometimes, and it's sort of like, okay, Cody, I don't need to see you all the time. I don't dislike Cody, and honestly, the times that I've seen him in person, he holds himself really well around fans. He's always very quick to thank people, which I was surprised by, and I feel bad for saying I was surprised by it. But the 2 times I met him, when I met him in Chicago for StarCast with the picture with his dog Pharaoh, he shook everybody's hand as they came up. He was like, "Hey, thank you for signing up for this meet and greet. How are you enjoying this weekend?" And then on the cruise, because it was a more limited amount of people that he got to meet. He like stopped and chatted with each person, which I thought was nice. And I was like, hey, you know, I just want to say you are my grandpa's favorite in AEW, like how your daddy was my grandpa's favorite in the territory days. Every time he sees you, he goes, that's Dusty's boy, which he does. My grandpa remembers Cody because of that.
Cool.
And he's probably one of the few people in AEW that my grandpa like remembers all the time. He forgets Kenny sometimes. He forgets the Bucks sometimes. Even forgets Mox sometimes and Hangman, but he always remembers Cody. Yeah. So props to him for
looks there. You know, for anybody that remembers Dusty way back when, he looks like him in his younger days.
Well, yeah, and especially when he bleaches his hair blonde. Yeah, he looks like Dusty, similar to Goldust when Dustin does it.
I think with Cody, we may never get that big run with the title that we probably should. You know, I think he's
the AEW title. You mean?
With any, you know, obviously AEW now because he's such an integral part of AEW. Because I think, you know, being a vice president, I think he really does take that job seriously, and he spread so thin that, you know, I think they'll, you know, after the Kenny run, you know, I think we'll see them kind of maybe step back a little bit. It's going to be hard for us to get a Cody run and a Kenny run. Like I feel like Kenny.
Yeah, no, I think specifically why Cody put that sort of thing on early, where he is like, if I can't win this from Jericho, I'm never going for this title again. And I think he did that early to try and make it clear to people that he's like, we're not going to just strap ourselves, right. You know. And it took a couple of title runs before the Bucks and a couple of title runs before Kenny, for those guys to be their respective champions. I liked how Cody did it, where he instead was the mid-card title holder, right? The TNT championship. I thought that was cool. And I thought his sort of open challenge was cool. It was definitely felt a lot more of a giving back to the indie community that so quickly embraced him when he was thrown into it. And I thought that was really nice. And I think all these guys have a good enough sense of storytelling. Like they all know that they've got years left, but they're closer to the end of their career than they are to the beginning of it. And so they're now actively looking for ways in which they can change the business. They can give back to all of these people. They can provide that space for indie wrestlers that they wished they had when they were younger. You see it with the Bucks and how they, I think, and I know you have different feelings about the Bucks, but I think especially in their role as being, you know, kind of not necessarily in charge of the tag division, but the tag team that is the basis and around which most of the tag division is formed, you can tell that they care about building this tag division. They're passionate about getting the tag teams for it, and you see it with when they got Lucha Brothers, when they got Santana and Ortiz, when they got Dark Order before Dark Order became a faction itself, when it was just Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, Butcher and Blade. It's and of course FTR, which I'm quick to forget. But
I mean, they came later, but definitely I think, you know, that was something that both sides wanted. You know, that was bound to happen. And I mean, you know, they said from the start that, you know, this is going to be some tag teams. Whereas like WWE really just shits all over tag teams.
Which is a shame because, as you know, tag team wrestling is like my favorites.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. Speaking of tag team wrestling, John Moxley recently went on record saying that at some point he wants to do a tag team. He loves tag team wrestling. And the idea was, who would his partner be? And the idea was it was going to be John Moxley and Brody Lee going for the tag titles. And that just, right? Just, that's the tag team I wanted to see. So
yeah, you have always been a huge Brody Lee mark, a huge Luke Harper mark. There's so many episodes going back. If for all two people watching, if you want to go back and see Sam Cahill of the Wrestling Connoisseur talk about Luke Harper, there's a ton of stuff when we were talking about WWE back when he was in there. That just he could have been the guy, and it's so sad to me that he didn't quite get the chance to climb that whole mountain.
Yeah,
definitely a tragedy.
My prediction is we'll get Moxley and Archer as a tag team eventually. Maybe this year even.
It's very interesting to me, and look at how it all goes back to New Japan. Because of course their first tango as John Moxley and Lance Archer was in New Japan for the IWGP United States Championship. But very interesting, if you've noticed lately, John Moxley also had a match against DBS Jr. in Bloodsport. Tangoing with more than one member of Suzuki-gun. Granted, Killer Elite Squad were former members, but, Suzuki-gun, I feel like Bullet Club is for life. So...
Yeah.
And he had that series of matches, or a couple of showdowns with Suzuki. So my next match that I want Mox to be in with Suzuki-gun is against Kanemaru, just whiskey versus whiskey. Let's go.
Interesting. I was like, don't say Taichi.
He's already had the match with Taichi in the G1, where he terrorized Miho Abe. He got up into her face and was just like, and she's like, yeah, that was his first G1 match was against Taichi. And I remember this because Taichi came to the US when the G1 that whole press conference, and he was sort of like, well, the guy that I'm supposed to be facing first isn't even here, so I don't know why they brought me. And I was just like, amazing.
Oh. Yeah. That's all I got.
A lot of stuff going on in wrestling. It's a lot of different things. Really. What's that?
It's almost burnout, really. There's so much going on. And you would think people would have the time now to watch, but I think I have less time to watch now than I ever did.
Because you have two little ones now instead of just one.
I have two demons. And which I have to go, because they're probably up by now.
It's 7:43. They're probably up, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. This was fun. We haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. I thought Trucker Kyle was going to come. So we could get that.
So hopefully we can get the others back on.
Get the gang all back together.
Yeah. Try to get John back on. That's been a task. John.
Just John. John Fair of Squared Circle Journal.
We'll get Kyle in there. Kyle show up. He'll show up.
Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I want. That's the main thing I want. It's just, you don't even need to talk about wrestling, Kyle. I know you're far behind, but just give us a couple of.
It just flips over to Kyle as he's walking into some facility.
Taking care of an order, doing his job.
Like, shh, Kyle, just turn it off.
It's fine. We don't need to watch you walking in and getting this.
We just stop.
Okay?
Stop everything just to watch. Watch him unload his truck, check his tires.
Yeah. All right. Well, you probably got to go. Hopefully, we can do this regularly. Maybe it can be a Saturday thing. Maybe every Saturday.
Yeah.
6 a.m. our time, because we're insane, but we're putting out content for you, all 2 viewers on YouTube.
Yeah. So there it is.
All right, this is Mid-Card Mana, Sam Kill, the Wrestling Connoisseur, and the Loose Cannons signing off. Bang, bang.